Hey there, and this is Daniel Zabala with Realtor Resource. And today I want to talk about the BRRRR method. So we're doing a live stream. And so in today's episode or video, we're going to talk about the BRRRR method, which if you're not familiar with the BRRRR method, that stands for buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. And so in today's video, I want to talk about how the title of this video is The Days of the BRRRR Method Are Over. Well, sort of. And I'll get into why. So before I continue, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. This is a newer YouTube channel, so we're trying to build up the audience and bring you great quality content over time. I will admit my video editing skills are limited, so that is a learning and growing process, but my goal is to bring you solid quality content, so let's dive right in. So the BRRRR method. So the last several years, maybe even close to a decade, the BRRRR method has been very, very popular for real estate investors, because when you use the BRRRR method, it allows you to buy a property. When you do it correctly, you buy it at a discount, a lot of times with cash, or you may be working with a wholesaler, so you buy it from a wholesaler using cash. And whether that's your own cash or you have a private money lender that has lent you the money to purchase the property, ideally you've borrowed the money to purchase the property and do renovations if you're going to borrow money. So you buy the property with cash, whether it's your cash or someone else's. You do the renovations as quickly as possible, and then you rent the property out. If you're trying to acquire property to hold as rentals, to build a rental portfolio and see the highest rate of return possible, and ideally with the goal of having infinite return, to where you have no money in the deal, but the property is producing positive cash flow and profits every month, every year. And it's been a very popular, very successful strategy for a lot of investors. However, it only works if you can either get in a market like we're in now, if you can get a property at a huge discount to make up for higher interest rates, or you can get a property with a lower interest rate. So, with interest rates hovering around 7.5% and up for the time of this recording in late April of 2024, it's a possibility that interest rates will only continue to rise. They may go back and forth, but it's quite possible interest rates will continue to rise, which historically we're actually sitting at about the average. When you look at the last, say, 100 years of what rates look like for lending on real estate, right now we're sitting at what is probably about the average, about the middle of rates. So totally possible for interest rates to continue to rise. If that's the case, it's going to be hard for the average investor to find new deals, find new opportunities, unless you learn how to pivot. So not to say there aren't opportunities where you still can use the BRRRR method. There are, but you have to be more diligent, and also it's more important to be a little more creative at this time. So again, if you could find a property at a huge discount, you still might be able to make the BRRRR method work. However, reality is those opportunities are few and far between. There's a lot of demand for real estate in general, especially for good properties that are going to be held as a rental property. So your best solution is to pivot, and that is to learn to be more creative in how you go about structuring your deal. So let's say you're working with a wholesaler. If you learn how to do creative finance, you can not only work with a wholesaler to create a creative deal for yourself, but you could in time help them structure creative deals to where they could wholesale creative deals in addition to cash deals. If you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, a lot of wholesalers out there, a lot of real estate investors or entrepreneurs, that their primary method has been wholesaling real estate. Likewise, wholesalers also are finding it even harder and harder to compete in the market because of higher interest rates. It makes it harder for investors to turn a profit by using the BRRRR method or flipping the property or what have you. I know where I am in Central Kentucky, most of the big investors, we'll call them investors, real estate entrepreneurs that have worked with wholesalers have shifted a lot of their focus from rentals to flipping property, because it's in order to make the most profit on a single deal, or opportunity, that makes the most sense. But even still, as interest rates rise, if there's high demand for properties and low supply, it's harder for wholesalers to just lock up a property under contract with a cash offer, because if the real estate market's anything like where I am, buyers a lot of times still know, even if the property is distressed, they still can get more for it than some of the low ball cash offers that a wholesaler is going to be willing to make. Always opportunities, but things are tightening up. So with that being said, the best solution is to pivot, learn to be more creative. So using creative finance, what does that look like? So if you find an opportunity, a lead directly, you want to learn how to negotiate with the seller to structure a creative finance deal using seller financing or sub-2 financing, or a combination of a hybrid where it's part subject to and part seller financing, or using a piggyback second mortgage or loan on the property on the deal. So I'm going to shift to Realtor Resources website real quick. Let's see here, share my screen. So if you go to our website, this is the homepage. Let's get rid of that. We have different levels of membership. If you become a member, you will get access to tons of tools and templates that we have and that we've built for you as a real estate professional, whether you're a brand new agent, if you're an experienced real estate agent, or you're a full-blown real estate entrepreneur. You want to start your own brokerage, you want to start your own company, multiple companies, start syndications, different structuring of legal entities for your investments and for your business endeavors. We have a package for you too. That's really what this website was. The goal, the vision of this website was for people that want to be full-blown entrepreneurs in real estate, start their own brokerage, start their own companies, create all the tools and templates you would need, or at least most of them, to get you started on that journey, and have it all in one place. A great resource with tools, templates, documents, spreadsheets, all these different things. So with that being said, the BRRRR method, there is at least, I know that level 1, the essential agent entry level plan, maybe even the free Explorer. I don't remember off the top of my head, but we have a BRRRR template. It's a one-page document that gives you a checklist of the things you need to do, built in Google Docs. You can easily download it. If you have a Gmail, you can create it. You can turn it into a PDF. You can print it off. You can use it digitally, however you want. Use it from your phone. But it gives you a really thorough checklist of things you need to do in the process, start to finish, when you're using the BRRRR method. And for example, there's a new step that was recently added this year, for the Corporate Transparency Act. If you're not familiar with that, if you're not aware, any businesses that have been created or are going to be created, any new legal business entities have to do a new step, and that is in the process. That is filing, submitting not an application, but submitting information to the government, unfortunately, for the Corporate Transparency Act. They say it's to protect the country and whatnot, whatever. It's a level of control. I'm not going to get off on a tangent on that, but ultimately is the government wants more control. But either way, you have to do it. There are huge legal ramifications. You can even go to jail, apparently, if you do not comply with the Corporate Transparency Act. If you've created a legal entity prior to January 1st, 2024, so last year and before, you have all of 2024 to get your Corporate Transparency Act information completed. But if you're starting a new business this year, going forward, you only have 30 days, from my understanding, maybe a little bit longer, but I'm pretty sure it's 30 days when you initiate the start of the business, when you file the articles of organization with the state that you're incorporating in, whatever legal entity you're using. You have 30 days to complete the required application or whatever it's called. You just submit that information to the for the Corporate Transparency Act. So super important you stay on top of that. That's one item that's been added to the checklist so you don't miss it. And it's at the top. So you make sure it's literally one of the first things you have to do, and you want to do, you have to do. And it has details of everything that goes into the BRRRR method. Likewise, I'll show you a quick glimpse of a tool that we have and that's continuing to be built out. Let's see, this is the home buying. So this is my personal version. So this tool has a deal analyzer. If you're going to wholesale property, if you're going to flip property, if you're going to work a creative deal, there's a ton that goes into creative finance, all these different things, whole list of creative terms you can use. And this is my version, so it's not super clean. The one on the website is cleaner and more complete. And so wholesaling, flipping, creative, a step calculator. So if you want to use an adjustable rate mortgage in a real estate deal that you're doing seller financing on, that tool helps you do that. And so I'm going to go back to the website real quick. So again, pivoting using creative finance is super important. If you become a member, if you become a pro real estate agent member, then you'll have access to the creative finance tools, templates, resources we have here at Realtor Resource, and any future videos and content we make specifically for that level of membership. Full access has access to all the tools and templates and everything we have. And recently we launched our Solidify Solutions, which is a new branch of Realtor Resource, to where you can make money by sending in leads, by becoming a contractor. We call it the lead generation specialist contractor position. You don't have to pay anything to become that one of those. There's no obligations. You don't have to submit a certain number of referrals in any given period of time. You literally fill out our contract agreement and you become a contractor. If you send in the qualified leads that do business, and so it's a successful transaction, you get paid. It doesn't get any easier or more simple. Whether that's a real estate deal, like a lead, if it's a note investor opportunity, a short-term lender opportunity, a business lead for our fractional CFO service that we have going. It's a fantastic way to make quick, easy money. I know typically, when you see, easy money, too good to be true, that doesn't exist. Well, it can, and it does. This is one exception because you have to send in the lead, and lead has to go through to completion. But if you do that, because you're a contractor, you get paid. And so what's really crazy about creative finance is that once you have the knowledge, the skills, and you've built up the network, you literally do not need money to make money. That's what's really exciting and encouraging to anyone that is an entrepreneur. It's all about learning how to think outside the box when it comes to structuring a deal. So going back to seller financing, if you are working directly with a seller, you found the lead yourself, or you acquired the lead yourself, and you're working the deal. If they have a lot of equity, or if the property is paid off free and clear, then you can do pure seller financing, where you write up the deal with them, where they're selling you the property and they are the lender. A lot of advantages to that. So when you think about how much they're going to, especially if you're working with someone that held the property as a rental property, a burnt out landlord, for example, someone looking to downsize their portfolio and liquidate it because they're tired of managing rentals, by buying using seller financing, it's a huge tax advantage to them. So, like, in a nutshell, they may have over $200,000 in initial capital gains profit they're going to have to pay taxes on if they sell it for cash, or using a realtor or whatever. However, if they structure a seller finance deal with you, they're going to make more money, because in that simple example, say they have $200,000 worth of capital gains. Depending on their tax bracket, they're going to be paying between 30 and 40% probably on total in taxes on that capital gain. You break it all down. Let's call it a third, and let's say it's 180 for simple math. 180 at a third in taxes, that leaves you with 120,000. Of the 120,000, you have another probably 10% to sell the property. So that's 12,000. So that brings you down to 108,000. And then and other things. So let's say, when it's all said and done, that seller, if they're an investor, when they sell the property, if they sold it for cash or sold it to somebody using a bank loan, so they got cash, either way, they're only walking away after taxes, fees, the cost of selling, everything, between a third and at most a half of the profit that they initially thought they were going to get. So it's called between $75,000 and $100,000 on what would have been initially a $200,000 profit. Whereas if they sell in seller financing, over the long term, depending on how they structure the deal, they're actually going to make significantly more. So let's say they were asking $300,000 for the house. Well, and if they're charging you a 2 to 4% interest rate over the course of 30 years or whatever, they're going to make probably over $400,000 in total over the long term, right? So for them, it is a win. But for you as an investor, it's definitely a win, because if you can structure a deal, you can get them to agree to a 0% interest rate or just a low percent interest rate. Especially working with someone that's not an investor, be a little bit easier to do, or set it up to where there's no payments for 1, 2, 5, even 10 years because of the way you structure the deal. That brings huge advantages to you as the investor buying on terms. And then not only can you buy the property to where the numbers really make sense, to where you can hold it as a long-term rental and it's still cash flow and make profit, healthy profit every month or at least every year, an acceptable rate of return. But also there are other strategies. For example, you could turn around and you could sell the property on terms to someone. For example, there's about 1/3 of potential home buyers out there will not qualify for a loan through a bank for a traditional type mortgage. Reason being, they're a contractor. Okay, so they may have a really healthy business, making great money, have decent credit or even good credit. They, have a lot of cash, but they can't get a loan from a bank to buy a house for them and their family. Well, that's where you can step in, because they are what we call a penalty box buyer. You could come in and charge 2% higher of what the average market rate is. So if rates are at 7.5%, you could charge 9.5%. To that kind of buyer. It requires a big down payment, and even negotiate a balloon payment some portion down the road to where they might refinance with you or what have you, or maybe they cash out and pay off the property. Either way, when you structure a deal using seller financing or owner financing on the back end, man, that you can make a really, really good profit, especially if let's say you bought the property with 0% interest in the front end, and then you turn around and you sold it to somebody at 9.5%. That's a 9.5% spread just on the interest rate alone. Not to mention if you did a long-term, like 30 or 40-year amortization with the seller initially, and then you did like a 15, 20, or 25-year amortization with that new buyer on the back end. The cash flow from doing it that way, buying on terms, selling on terms, typically is between 2 and 3 times as much on average, and can be more for sure. And there's a ton of other things you can work into the deal that have a lot of value for you as the person creating the deal that doesn't really affect that initial seller. But we'll call it 80% of the value of the potential value in a deal like that comes from the other terms and conditions you can write into the contract, and that you can write into the note, the loan that you create with that seller. Okay, so that's pure seller financing. Now, subject to a little more complicated, because you're assuming, well, you're not assuming, you're taking over the payments of an existing mortgage, which is also a great opportunity. You just have to be careful and do it correctly. For example, any of the properties that were purchased between, 2016, 2012, and 2022 probably, had interest rates below 5%. A lot of them 2-3% interest rate on those loans. Maybe they've built up some equity, or maybe they haven't. But regardless, if you could take over that loan, that is incredible opportunity. You may have to pay a big down payment to make up for their equity. Maybe you don't. Maybe you structure it where, okay, we'll do a hybrid where we're doing subject to, and then we're also going to create a loan with that seller. We'll bring in another third-party lender. There's all kinds of ways you can structure it to make it work. And again, the goal is to create a win-win situation, but also a situation where you are going to make a lot more profit than if you just held it. You just went to a bank, refinanced. Where reality with where rates are right now, you're probably going to have a break-even scenario if you try and just use the traditional BRRRR method. And with interest rates being higher as well, a lot of private hard money lenders are charging more. A year and a half ago, we'll say, where I am, it was common to see hard money lenders charging anywhere between 9 and 10% probably to lend money, a 12-month short-term loan to buy the property, do renovations, so you could rent it out, refinance it with a local bank or credit union, and cash them out. But now I'm seeing rates at anywhere between, on average, 12 to 16% for those same hard money lenders, because overall interest rates are higher. So they know they can ask more, and people are willing to, as long as flippers or investors are willing to pay for it, they got it made. So all that being said, again, the goal is to pivot and be more creative. If you want to learn more about how you can utilize creative finance, be sure to check out Realtor Resource. There's a lot more content on the website if you're a paid member than there is on the YouTube channel. There's barely anything on the YouTube channel at this point, as well as the quality. Right now I'm just using a webcam to get things going, to get in the habit of posting consistently. There's a lot of opportunities still in the market. You just got to know where to look and how to approach it. So until next time, God bless, and see y'all at the top.